Hey, how's it going? So today I want to talk about some things that I discovered while trying to figure out some stuff about myself. And it started out because I was just having this regular day. I had no visitors, like there was no internal, immediate external stimuli. It was super hot outside, so no one was out there, and there was nothing out there to make a distraction or anything going on. And I just noticed that I started out in the morning and things were fine. I did my little routine, took care of my cat, and whatever, just was going about my business. And then all of a sudden I was mad, and I was like, what the heck am I mad about? Like, nothing happened. And that eventually went away, and then later I was like sad and embarrassed or something. And like throughout the course of the day I was just like feel like my normal self, where really like I had no reason to feel much of anything, to all of a sudden feeling like pretty strong emotion and unable to determine the cause. And I know that that can be the cause or the result of a number of things, which I did take into consideration. But I then remembered, as I was going, what is happening? What is going on? I remembered like a little bit of what I've learned as a layperson about astrology, and that's that if you know like what is connected to you specifically, and it doesn't even have to be connected to you specifically, but certain planetary placements are going to affect you in certain ways. And over the course of the day, those change. I'm not even going to try to explain it. I don't understand it, excuse me, very well myself. I just know that there's like degrees and hours, and things happen at hours, and things happen at different degrees, in different ways. And so I feel like I was able to clock like some of my emotional transits along with the planetary ones, but partially, because like I said, that's not, whoa, that's not the only thing that can affect you throughout the day. Like under the conditions that I explain, you might be feeling stuff from other places. Like you definitely could. I mean, think about like if you have been in a room and then like felt the mood change because you didn't know why, but you knew that something happened to make it change. Or you walk into a room and all of a sudden all of the conversation just stops, and you're like, okay, what happened? What does it have to do with me? Why is everybody looking at me not saying anything? It leads you to think things like, in the first instance, who died? Or in the second instance, who died, and what do I have to do with it? Or what did I do? Or, you know, you just know like something happened. You sense something happened that has to do with you. And I think that happens. Well, I know that happens on a larger scale than just myself, or just walking into a room filled with like however many people you know. And I'm talking like up to 10 people, nothing crazy. But then there's also those times when like mob mentality happens. And I don't mean necessarily that like a group of people get together and they go out and start smashing and burning stuff. But I do mean when you can get like emotionally whipped up and charged up, like say over your favorite football team, or something, whatever it is that the group in question is like all similarly attracted to or of a like mind about. And something in that area will get them like whipped up. And I don't know, whipped up is like the best thing I can come up with to describe it, because it's to me a matter of conversation going back and forth, and like that exchange kindling a kind of energy, and sometimes it's positive and sometimes it's negative. But with a lot of people generating a certain kind of emotion, most of us are going to sense it or feel it on some level, whether we're aware of it or not. Um, and I guess you have to kind of, if you care about being affected, you have to be aware of the causes. At least that's my mindset as far as dealing with it for myself is concerned. Um, but it got me thinking about like the stuff that I see in public that I know is going on, because I've had like light brushes with things, but nothing of like a violent nature, like a beating or sexual abuse or um, some kind of harm coming to people physically, like beating or murder, you know, whatever it is. Um, but I've seen on like television, on the news, and online that things like this are apparently happening, like the ambush murders I talked about. But something not to that degree, but it's happening a lot. It could like cause a chain reaction in a couple of ways. Is the phenomenon where people are just like unloading like everything they've held in all of their life that they knew they shouldn't say for whatever reason it's offensive, or they're not allowed to for whatever reason, and they've just kind of held it in there for so long. And it's not just one person. I think that's become pretty obvious. It's been happening with a lot of people, and I think it's like some call they're hearing collectively that now's the time to unleash what you've been holding inside, just sitting in there getting rotten and fermented, so it just comes out all nasty out of your mouth onto unsuspecting people, maybe a person that has the appearance of what you've possibly been led to hate, and that seems like the appropriate person to dump on. And like all this weird stuff is coming out of people, and I have to say, like, it's just weird that like everybody's all deciding to do it, whoa, all right now, as a flock, as a group, as a herd. um but it's not actually the first time I've seen that happen. For my whole life I've had people just walking up and saying just off the wall crap to me, even people that you've known for a while, that you feel like this is an okay person to relax with, to be vulnerable around, and have them just out of the blue lean in and say something awful like, I'm just making this up here, but something like, hey, I've always thought black people smelled weird, or just like something like out of the blue like that. Usually it's racially a racial thing. Otherwise, it wouldn't. It has an effect on you. I'm sorry. I have feelings, and then it's like finding out like the whole time they've been just pretending, and they actually think you're like poop or something. It's not, it doesn't feel good. But now it's just like all over the place, and it's like kind of uncomfortable. But one of the chain reactions that can cause is like it's traumatizing. But the one that I was really thinking of is when one of those people decides they're going to unleash their crap on somebody, and they may not realize because they're not thinking about anybody else, but that person, that unwilling victim, you may have met them on the day that they were on their last straw. And occasionally you will see that sort of dynamic happen where the person getting unleashed on is like, today is not the day. I am not the person. And they just come right back at the other person. And if it's caught on film, it's kind of amusing because the person who starts the stuff is usually thinking they're not going to have a reaction much, because we've had certain sort of a paradigm where you could do certain things to certain people if you were a certain other type of person, and not really you have to deal with ramifications, not even from the authorities. In fact, we see now that what a lot of people have been saying for years has been happening to them is being caught on film, and it's a lot. So there's a lot of feelings going on, a lot of like anger coming out, and I guess the point that I'm making by bringing all of that up, like yucky stuff, and I just now feel the need to clear the air a little bit, but it's not all terrible, right? There's always an other side to this stuff, and it's like when people don't give the reaction that the person is looking for, it's like don't give them the pleasure of a response that they can, you know, do the Apparian Attack thing with, like volley back and forth a bunch of poop. Like some people are just like, okay, I see, I see that this is happening with you, and I mean, I don't know if that's like what they're thinking, but I feel like you got to kind of take that approach. I would, in the occasions that I have come into something resembling that situation. It's always been more like, well, I have this philosophy: if somebody's acting stupid, I'm just gonna go ahead and let them do it, and you know, kind of don't want to get in the way of people if they really want to do something. Like if they're bound and determined to do a certain thing, then I'm happy to step aside if I don't want to get it on me. You know what I'm saying? Um, so there's a lot of reasons for that. Like I said, the carrying around stuff inside. I mean, do I really have to detail why something like that would just build and escalate into something unpleasant? Especially if they like let it build up and never addressed any of it and sort of compounded the initial problem. Um, and then then I started thinking about larger groups that are sort of like egging each other on. And there's some that are sort of like I'm in disagreement with because I don't want to be told how to behave. And, I don't want it to be a thing because I am a person of color, I'm a woman, but those are traditionally the people that get the stupid end of the stick. So there's some people that want to give you the whole stupid stick, and I don't want any of it. I want no stick. And then there's the other end where obviously it's coming from people with other motivations, but however altruistic they may be, they still can also get whipped up into a frenzy, and there is also a violent, dangerous element on the other end of the spectrum. Um, what I think is kind of interesting right now is like on the left, like politically, you have some people like your progressives, and of whom those are the people with whom I can identify with the most. Um, and I have to like tell myself this all the time, even though I don't like waiting and I know how long stuff takes because so many people have to be coaxed along and whatever it takes, I guess, for there to be like a collective agreement enough for like a big change to happen politically. So it takes a long time. Changing minds takes a long time, and that's not even something we can like do for other people. That's something that has to come from inside another person or inside of any person. That's when their mind is going to change, when they're ready to change it. But you do your best, and so that group of people can get together, and you want your changes, and you want them now, like I was so sad and appalled to see like first the civil rights laws. They've been under attack like since they were enacted, I think. But it just, I mean, it's a little bit destabilizing because you feel like this is a good thing. This was helping make life for someone like me easier, and they've finally been successful with like attacks, or there were like, it's getting better. Some stuff I think is going to get put back into place, or I don't know how that's going to come about, but I really feel like like a lot of people didn't want to go back on stuff. Like a lot of people are seeing like maybe the abortion thing that also has been under attack from day one of its existence. Uh, they were pretty successful in making it really hard for people, but I think now they're seeing the people that wanted this, that that's a mistake. And there's a bunches of people generating a bunch of energy on either sides of a scale, uh, and then coming together and sort of dissonating, and that creates a whole nother energy. And some people are susceptible to it and will act out not well, not safely, and yeah, it's I don't know. I was just thinking about stuff this one day. Um, so it's interesting. We'll see how it works out. I feel like for the most part things are going to work out well. But now I lost my track of what I was saying. But the people on the political left, like for so long, you've been, we really got to fight hard for this, and we got to protest, and we got to like get people on our side and act like cheerleaders, like get people worked up for their project or plan or whatever it is. But you want to get the people on your side, and the opposition that they're fighting operates so differently. It's like the left isn't usually as successful as we'd like them to be in the face of that. Those of us that are like, get on with it already. And yes, once again, I do not like the incremental thing, but it stuff just takes long. And then there's like people that are determined to make what you want to happen not happen. So there's all kinds of opposition that stuff has to face. So you get into this posture of like fight, fight, fight. But then like now stuff is starting to change and go in the direction that like people on the left and like I would like to see happen, and I would like to see more of it happen. And I think it's kind of hard for people to realize, oh wait, hold on a second, I can sort of get out of that mode. I can get out of that mode. I can, because things are changing. Like you, I guess, have to change your line of attack, so to speak, or alter it somewhat to fit the occasion, because it's now a different scene. There's a different dynamic growing where like things we actually want are starting to happen. Like who thought? Well, never mind. I don't want to totally start talking about politics. Um, but I think that's going to work itself out. Like we'll make adjustments. So I'm not like out there fighting the way I'm talking about. I'm not part of like the whole political machine at all. But I'm observing, and I have my opinions. Um, yeah. Did I have something else to add to that? If I did, I can't think of what it was. Oh, I guess this over here. Um, it just kept going through my mind like, don't get caught in the minutia, don't get caught in the minutia, don't get caught in the minutia. And for me, that like I illustrated it as like a bog of zeros and ones. Like you just don't want to step in there and get your ankles and your arms and things caught in O's and have ones bopping you over the head while you're trying to get out or whatever, like quicksand. But it beats you up a little bit because it's just information pounding your brain constantly. And well, we probably should go on a diet if it's getting like so much that you get worked up about stuff that are not your direct life. uh well, I mean, there's so many things that could cause detriment doing things that way. Your relationships, your job, your happiness in life. It's a matter of priorities, and that's kind of why I always am doing my best to improve what I can about myself, what I understand to be like an impediment. Like, I know anger, that's why I'm working on it. Like, it gets in the way of things. Like, it makes you not think clearly, it makes you act quickly and stupidly. um and it's just not the greatest energy to be angry. It puts people off. um yeah, okay, I guess I've made my point about all of that. um Anything else? No, I guess I about covered it. Just something I was thinking about, you might also want to think about. Oh, I almost forgot, like, a really important part. The reason why I'm even sharing this is because it helps me in ways that I didn't realize it would. I mean, there's a process to doing this. Like, I have a sort of a scripting process I do. It's not really a script, but it's more of an outline. But at least I sort of like write it out and write it through, get all my feelings that I have on the subject kind of like worked out, and I can just read over it and just kind of collect what I want to keep to talk about and what I don't. And then also the other process is like, this is the eighth time I've tried to do this. So throughout that process, I can sort of go back and look at what I did and make notes. And like, that whole thing is like therapeutic for me. So that's why I share, because I feel like if it can help me, like, maybe it can help someone else. My little observations. And that's about it. Thank you. And whoa, I screwed that up. Thank you and good night.